Good afternoon, people. Oh, shoot. Already, my studio is already falling apart. Crap. Hope everyone is well. Happy Sunday. My name is Fabrice from the Amateur Football YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today, I have a very special guest, someone who I've known for probably about maybe a year and a half, possibly. But honestly, this guy is so influential and like he's got crazy amounts of knowledge. And I don't want to kind of play it down. Like I want this guy to kind of talk about his experiences, and kind of hopefully you guys in the kind of grassroots community can like relate. And of course, we will kind of also kind of do some relatable examples. So anyone that's kind of watching, please go and click the like button, the share button, get your questions in. Let me stop waffling. Hugo Scheckter, how are you doing, sir?
I'm really good. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for coming onto the Amateur Football YouTube channel. Thank you so much. So you know what? Let's go straight into it. Hugo, can you please tell the viewers your footballing journey thus far?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess if you go right back, I was a coach. Sort of 17 years old, got my level 1, coached under 14s, under 18s, and did that in the UK. Then I went to America for university, where I continued to coach football, women's and men's, or girls, I guess, and men's. And then kind of was doing my coaching badges. I could try to get involved in all the football and other administration I could. And eventually I had to get a job. Obviously, I graduated from my uni in America, sports business degree, and my first club was a second division American team called Indy 11, which was a startup franchise in the second division. So the club didn't exist before I got there. We had one player, one manager, and that was it. And so we had to kind of build that team up and build a fan base and build a training ground and everything like that. So a really cool experience. Then I from there, I got a job offer from Southampton, where I was player liaison officer, the first one in Southampton's history. And so working with the first team players on the off the field stuff for them. And then after 3.5 years was approached to be head of player care at West Ham, where I've just left after 2.5 years in December to start my own business as a consultant in the industry. So yeah, quite a varied thing with some coaching, some America, some, men's, women's, a bit of grassroots obviously as well, which obviously is relatable to you guys. And then, 7-8 years in the Premier League as well. So yeah, really cool journey so far. Anyway.
Wow, amazing. And let's kind of quickly touch on a quick point that West Ham are doing pretty well now. And you've like been there, for like a few years. How like was it for you from like last season to like when you left this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you count last season as obviously including the break for COVID, it's unprecedented, and to be in a position of responsibility in the club through that was really, really tough. But really great learning opportunity as well. I mean, the Premier League or the top division hasn't stopped since 1945. So, to think about how big an occasion it must have been to stop the football, but then also try and, keep everyone safe, keep everyone well, keep a competitive advantage as well, because, you have to kind of balance that. Are we doing the right thing? Are we keeping everyone as safe as we can? We're keeping everyone safe, but we still got to win on the weekend. So really quite difficult decisions that had to be made. And because when the season stopped, we were, I think, level on points with the relegation zone, or at least 1 point. I mean, it was very, very close. And we knew we had to come and hit the ground running with those 9 games. And we did. We stayed up quite comfortably in the end. And obviously, West Ham are flying, just beat Spurs, which is great to see. And best team in London at the moment, which is which is something you don't normally think you'd hear of West Ham. It's, I mean, fair play to them. Obviously, like I was there until the end of December, and then since then they've flown. I don't know if that's because I left or not.
Because you left.
Yeah. As soon as I left, they were like, right, guys, let's get it now. we can stop losing. We're gonna keep winning. But no, really pleased for them. Obviously, I know a lot of all the guys there really, but really fantastic to see it. And yeah, the players and the manager and the backroom staff, they deserve all the success.
Cool, great stuff. And kind of going on to that next point, and you kind of mentioned that you left West Ham to actually start up your own business, playercaregroup.co.uk. Can you please talk to the audience about what this is about?
Yeah, so I've kind of been working in player care, which is, I think, if we sort of talk what is player care, I think it makes more sense. So player care is kind of everything that is not football or medical that kind of goes around the first team of a football club. So we're talking about team travel, team scheduling, team internal communication, player relocation, family support, well-being, mental health. There's so much that goes into it. So you got the personal player side, you got the team side, and that kind of builds it in. So what my business is doing is we're a consultancy, so we'll go into clubs in the UK to begin with, and then both abroad and also in other sports going forward, to kind of either improve their player care or start up from scratch. So yeah, it's a new consultancy. It's been interesting, obviously, starting a business in the middle of a pandemic, probably not what people would recommend, but actually because football's kept going, it's been good. So yeah, really enjoying it.
No, brilliant. And again, let me just say thank you for people who are watching. Thank you for all the likes as well. If you've got any questions, please fire them in. And just by saying that, thank you to James. Love to see this kind of stuff, fella. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to everyone that's been supporting the channel. So let's kind of talk about this some subject in terms of, I think people in general put footballers on a kind of pedestal. And like how important was it for you in like your role to kind of debunk that and literally almost trying to humanize footballers? I mean, literally, what's the kind of whole process for you at Southampton and kind of also at West Ham?
So I don't really see them as superstars or heroes, because obviously they're like my work colleagues, like we all have. So I still find it odd when people will call a player by their last name, and obviously that's like Noble. I'm like, oh, I just call him Mark or no. Even that is like they're being called by what they're written on the back of their shirt, but it's not their name. And I think it's really important to understand that you've got 25, 26 humans in a squad, but also backroom staff and coaches and managers as well. They're all humans with different issues, and that's kind of what we've tried to look at is removing distractions to allow them to focus, but also understanding that people have stresses, they have pressure, they have other issues. And I think it's stuff that potentially that you and I don't experience on a regular basis. It's the fact that you're in the public eye all the time, and I think looking at, I know there have been some footballers who have breached COVID and for various reasons, COVID restrictions, and like it's not good. But I think if we're all looking at ourselves totally honestly, have we all followed every single rule since March 2020? I would strongly doubt it. So the difference is either the footballers are stupid enough to put it on social media, which then they deserve everything they get, or they're just someone who's lonely, struggling, the same as everyone else. So I don't think there should be different rules for them. But I think the fact that you and I could probably meet up with a mate in the park to have a chat now, it's not going to be in the newspaper. If they do it, probably someone will spot them and put it on social media, then it will get a common thing. So it's those kind of things where, they're having to work through COVID like everyone else, but they're probably under a little bit different pressure, and it's not as easy for them to be vulnerable, especially when there's more games than there's ever been. Every game's on TV. There's been no break. Effectively, there was a 2-week break, and normally it's a 5-week break. So, it's a tough situation. I think I think you'll continue to see injuries. I think you'll see performances dip, and I think especially like when we get towards the Euros, I don't know what kind of quality that's going to be at the Euros, because they'll have been going for 2 and a bit years at that point, like really without a proper break. And so it is really tough. It's really tough. But also, at the end of the day, there's a lot worse positions to be in than a professional footballer. So, we've got to understand that as well, and understand our position in the ecosystem, but while understand that these guys have problems too.
Yeah, no, amazing. And thank you to like George. Great stuff to Breeze. Player K is actually huge. Simplest way for me to describe it, it's as valuable as the entire club's worth. Do you agree in terms of what George has said?
I mean, I'd love to think that the player care department's worth as much as the entire club, but no, I think if you look at it purely financially, the players are the biggest asset for the club. And so, you know, if you buy a 10 grand TV, you're not going to go and get a plug that you found on the floor outside and put it on. You're going to get the best cable, the best plug, everything like that to make sure that it's working, the picture's perfect. And so it's the same for me in player care. Is we're going to spend £50 million on a player. Why would we just say, "I'll sort it out yourself"? And I think, you know, what player care does is it removes the risk from clubs or lowers the risk that players are not going to succeed. And so we try and take care of all the off the field bits to make sure that they're performing as well as they can. And I think, why would you take that risk and let a player, you know, maybe not be able to find their way? You know, I look at it, you know, one of the first players I worked with was a young Senegalese player, and he moved here from Senegal via Austria. And I'm like, he was 19 or 20. And I'm like, if I moved to Senegal age 19, would I know how to find a house, how to find a car, how the council tax works there, when the bins go out? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why should we expect people to know that when they come here? So I think it's trying to just remove that stress, give them the chance to, you know, really find their own feet. And then, you know, yeah, we want them to be self-sufficient, but it's sometimes too much of a risk where you're going to put that risk into someone's hands that maybe doesn't know what they're doing so much. So why wouldn't we cover this for them?
Yeah, no. Oh, I love that answer. So there's going to be people, or you know, let's say kids, you know, people at that age that are kind of probably knocking on certain academies' doors, or you know, people who can actually have that kind of aspiration to actually become pro. Can you kind of delve deeper into like the kind of footballing job or the kind of footballing industry? And you know, again, you know, it's kind of not all glitz and glamour. There's like a lot of things behind the scenes that again, you've been witness to. How important is like this kind of, you know, I'd say a bullet point for like people out there who are kind of looking to go like to that next level into the elite industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I can just talk personally, I think, you know, for 7-8 years, I've lived in cities or areas where I don't have connections, I don't have friends, I don't have family. So I moved to Indianapolis, which was, you know, 1,000 miles from my university, but 6,000 miles from my family. Lived in a city I'd never really known that well. Then I moved to Southampton, which again, I'd never been to before I got the job there. And I was working 42 weekends a year, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, you know, and it's great because you have a great job, but actually the human side of it is tough on people who work in the industry. And I think, you know, the players as well. And I think, you know, how many foreign players do we have in the Premier League? Those are all people who are living away from their families. But even in the UK, you know, if you're from Sunderland and you're playing for Plymouth, you know, it's probably quicker for you to get to New York than it is to get home, you know. Yeah. So it's a long way, and it's obviously a very different culture and a different place. So I think it is like the stuff that I put on, you know, when I was there, I put on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. It's the best highlights, but actually you don't see not the lowlights, but the work that takes to get there. So, you know, Christmas Day, I'm sat in the office responding to emails because we play on Boxing Day. So it's not an option. But then we go home at 12 o'clock and I've got nothing. Okay, well, my family don't live in Southampton or London. So I'm like, okay, well, Deliveroo shut. So, you know, just pot noodle and watch a film. You know? But you know, okay, fine. I'm not complaining about that. But I think, you know, I think also the way that footballers are, especially the ones at the elite level, it's really hard because they have to be suspicious of everybody. Yeah. Why is this person trying to be my friend? Is it because they know who I am and they want tickets, boots, shirts? Is it because, or they're looking to sell a story or whatever? You know, if you or I are in a pub and we meet someone, or, you know, meet someone through work, you think, well, they don't really need anything from me. It's just someone who wants to have a chat or whatever, or a date or something like that. Whereas a footballer, they've got to be like, does this guy recognize me? Does he know I am? Why is he being nice? And so you'll find a lot of players who are actually incredibly lonely, even though they're popular because they've got millions of followers on Instagram or whatever. They're actually quite isolated and quite lonely. And we had a couple of players in lockdown who were locked down the same as all of us, but not in their home country, are living alone in an apartment, and there's nothing we could do about it. Like, I can have all the experience of the world, but I can't magic up, a solution to that. And so, especially when you have players from the continent who are getting, their country's getting ravaged by COVID, and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to see my family again, And then we're having to say, yeah, you got to come in, you got to do your training, this, and they're like, how can I even focus on this, And even the last game of the season, after the lockdown, we played Villa at home, and that was like a Sunday game. And that night, the night before, the government changed the rules to take half the countries off the list. And the problem was, because we only had 2 weeks off, the players couldn't go to their home countries and come back and quarantine. So you had all these players who'd book flights and hotels and it would go see family they hadn't seen in a year anyway. And the night before the game, can't go anymore. Yeah. And so we had players losing their heads, and absolutely justifiably. And luckily we didn't need anything from that game, because it was a horrible, horrible evening. Because, you got players who are like, I've sat in an apartment for 4 months by myself. I've worked hard. I haven't seen my family. I was so looking forward to seeing them tomorrow, and it's suddenly taken away. And then they probably haven't seen them for another year. So it's because they don't get time off. You can't take annual leave in football. You can't, if you've got a wedding, tough shit. It's you're missing that. You're missing anniversaries. You're missing birth of kids. You're missing families. Even funerals is difficult because, especially in this time, we've okay, I don't know Jurgen Klopp, but we've seen from Jurgen Klopp having to miss his mother's funeral. I mean, heartbreaking. I mean, I just can't think of anything worse. And so I think that side of the football, I think these are problems that everyone faces, sure, but I think the lack of flexibility around a job can make it quite tough sometimes.
Yeah, and I can definitely vouch what you said regarding how like players are very suspicious, and even security, and kind of even like yourself. I really remember when I first came to like do my first West Ham job, and everyone was just looking at me thinking, who's this guy? Just turns up there, and the security was just kind of looked at me different. Like the players were kind of looking at me different. And again, it's about earning that trust. Yeah. And so I've literally experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
And it wasn't nice.
It's difficult because, again, we're from the inside, we're trying to suss you out, and we're trying to make sure that you're a good person, which obviously you are, and trying to make sure that you're going to do a good job. And I think, but once the guys see you at 5, 6, 7, 8 games, and then we got you some kit, and then you felt like you're part of the team. Don't ask me for this year's kit. But yeah, but there's little touches where it's the same face every week, and trying to know that if they've got to go, with you somewhere, then that you're a trusted person. You're starting to come into that bubble a little bit. So, we try and have that kind of us versus them mentality a little bit, because certainly competitively you need to have that. But even in COVID times, it's, you shouldn't be seeing people outside of your bubble. You shouldn't be going to this because you put the team at risk. And so that was the same with everyone who's on the outside, is to really say, we need to stick with our own and support each other, and not take risks with unknown entities, I guess.
Yeah, true. And actually, George is kind of coming again. Thank you, George, for your comments. Asset care doesn't just address intermediate challenges and solutions, but it also influences onward success on and off the pitch. Happy and supported players perform on and off the pitch.
I would agree. I mean, it's the difficulty with what I do is it's hard to sort of quantify it and say, well, because you got this player a house really quickly, he scored 2 goals. I can't say that direct link. So I don't like to sort of say things where, if I can't prove it, I don't like to say it. So yes, I would believe that it does affect performances, because anyone who's settled, everyone who's happy, works better, performs better. But I think also we're all part of a team, and we at any football club, you have the coaches, you have the player care, you have video analysts, you have physios, you have doctors, you have sports scientists, you have the chefs, the nutritionists, the kit men, security, ground staff, all these different groups, and there's more as well, that go into winning on a weekend. And so I don't like to say that player care or asset care, as I think it was George that said that, referred to it as, it directly affects it. Sure, it does, but everything affects it. And what we try and do as a department is be that glue between all the different departments as well, to try and make sure that everything runs smoothly. So we don't show up and the grass isn't mown because no one's told the groundsman that we're training. Like that kind of little bitty stuff that's a small mistake, but can make a massive impact because they're having to wait around or the pitch isn't how they want it or whatever. So it's all the little bits that go into those sort of 0.1%, those marginal gains that go into try and win the game on the weekend. And when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't work, it's not great.
And you've kind of literally kind of gone into this bullet point regarding when that kind of things go well and not so well. I can, if it's kind of all right for me to kind of give a quick example. There was 2 games where I kind of noticed it. The game last season where West Ham lost to Crystal Palace in the last minute.
Okay.
I think that was when, I can't remember. I think we like conceded in the kind of last couple of seconds, and also the Liverpool game as well, away. I saw quite a few of the players really distraught and really upset. And of course, like players and management staff, people behind the scenes, it's as you've said before, it's a kind of forgiving sport, and it's relentless. How do you kind of pick up players, pick up management, pick up your colleagues and your staff after results like that? And also, how is the mood when you've kind of won a game pretty convincingly?
Yeah, I think I always see my role as trying to be the level-headed one, because during a game I don't really have a lot to do. I did this subs board for a little bit this season just because of weird COVID rules, but for me, I don't see my role as getting overly emotional, either positively or negatively. So I want to be there to support the guys when we win, but also, when we lose, just be that efficient person. I think, and the longer you work in the environment, the better you kind of understand what each person needs, because it's not even a team thing; it's an individual player thing. Some players like to have a laugh and a joke. Some players like to be really serious. Some players could chat for days. Some players will say, nothing to you unless they need something. So it's not about having that sort of one plan fits all kind of approach. It's about having this individual approach. And so, after a bad loss, you would kind of, at the end of the day, you need to be operationally sound. So if it's an away game, is the plane ready? Is the food ready? Is the kit man ready to go? Is that, and what you don't want to be doing is losing your head and throwing stuff around the change room, and then the plane's not ready, and you're like, well, what have you been doing? Oh, you've been throwing. Why are you upset? So it's trying to be that level-headed one, but also sometimes players just need to scream at something, and sometimes that something is you, and it's I know it's never directed at me, but sometimes you just need to basically let off steam or chuck something around or whatever. That's fine. It's about trying to be there when you're needed, and also not get in the way when you're not needed. And I think knowing when you're needed and when you're not is really important. But it's, the highs are amazing, and that's the best thing. One of the best things about working in football is the highs are incredible and the lows are terrible. I with Southampton, I was lucky enough to go to a cup final, sat on the bench at Wembley, and I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever done. You're at Wembley, there's 90,000 people there. The whole city of Southampton is watching or is there. We're, going up on the bus, up the M3. There was, banners on the bridges across, come on Southampton. And we went 2-0 down, came back to 2-2, and it was like, we could do this here. And then Zlatan popped up the goal. And you had, in that one day, you had the highs of being sat on the bench at Wembley, and then that 82nd minute lost goal, and just and that sort of, you don't get that in other jobs, So, but it's hard to come back. I was really down after the Wembley final because I thought we had such a good chance to win it, and it took me at that night. I remember we had a party that we were supposed to go to, and I just didn't want to go, and the players didn't want to go, and I was told you've got to get them to the party. So I had to pull myself together. I was devastated, and I was really struggling to get out of the room, and just So I knew I was going to get grief from the players who didn't want to be there anyway. And I'm like, I don't want to go. You don't want to go. Let's just go and let's just be there for an hour and then you can go, kind of thing. And it was really tough because for a couple of days I was like gutted because I thought, you know, I'm going to win something. I'm going to be able to tell my grandkids that I won a cup final at Wembley, and well, I can tell them I went to Wembley, but you know, so does everyone on the tour, you know, the stadium tour. But yeah, you know, the highs and lows are incredible.
And I want to kind of probably go like back right at the start of your kind of footballing journey. When like you was in the States, when like you was like the head coach or managing your kind of college team, like what certain things did like you do if again, like, you know, the like results were good or bad or indifferent?
Yeah, I think what I really miss as a coach is being the one in charge and like being able to look at everything and make decisions. And I think hopefully now I'm not working full-time football to be able to go and do some more coaching again. But I think what we did there was actually it set me up quite well for this player care role because we had a uni team. I was assistant manager, then I was head coach or manager, and then. But what I focused on was the off the field bits. So we made sure that we were always on time. I was super strict. I mean, like crazy strict, with like stricter than the Premier League clubs are in terms of being on time. And, you know, like, I mean, you know, if someone's late for the bus, we'll sit and wait for them.
Mm.
My uni team, we once traveled. I made a point and we traveled with 8 players, 3 hours to a game.
Really?
Because 5 of them were late. And I was like, nah, not having that. Let's go. And I was like, the players were annoyed at me. I was like, don't be annoyed at me. Be annoyed at the players who showed up late. And so we went there, got destroyed, drove 3 hours back. And it wasn't me who was the bad guy. It was them. That, you know, the players didn't show up. And it was like that self-policing thing where I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Sit and wait. We're going to sit and wait for how long? 10 minutes? An hour? Like, we got to go. And so like that kind of stuff we were super strict on. But we were the only team doing that. So off the field, we'd show up on time. We'd have all the kit, you know, perfect. We'd have a meal. We'd have a plan. We weren't technically very good. I'm not a tactically brilliant manager. We played 4-4-2 every single game. But you know what? Like, we went from outside the top 1,000 in the country to the top 24 in the country. And that's, you know, 980 odd places jumped because we were well organized and we got there and teams saw us get out the cars in our, you know, perfect tracksuits, ready to go. Right, warm up. Everyone is together. No one's on their phones. No one's messing about. They're there. They're sorted. They're organized. They're warming up, and you're like, who are those guys over there? You know. And I think that's something that any team can have. It's it's when it goes kind of from being a bit of fun with your friends to if you're like, we actually want to win this, then put these things in place and be strict and be. I'm sorry, if you're not here on time, you're not going to play. And if it hurts the team for one game, then you make a point and you just say, well, you're responsible, not me. I didn't make you late. Get here on time next time. You know, everyone wearing the same clothes, looking fresh, but looking professional. You know, making sure that like everyone has water. Like, if you've got bottles of water, if you've got bananas at halftime, if you've got or oranges or whatever, have you got everything you need? I've got all the registrations done, all the kits ready, all this is ready. Everyone's got their boots, everyone's got their shin pads, because it's those little steps that when you're coming to play opposition who don't have that, they might be technically better than you, but also the players, they walk in an inch higher as they come onto the pitch. And I was speaking to a player who went from Southampton to a much bigger team. And he when he got there on his first day, they in the locker room in the training ground, they carved his name in wood and like put his shirt number in his locker.
Wow.
And he said, like, I just felt like I'd arrived. And what's that cost them? 100 quid? I don't know. You know, like, okay, not a grassroots thing, but like at Premier League level, I'm like, of course they've done that. Wow, amazing. They got the carpenter in at 4 a.m. He's built this out. They've done it. I don't know how they've done it, but he's like, look at this. My name is carved into the wall. I'm in a big club now. And so you step your level up. But it's all those little things where if people around you if you step your level up, people around you either have to step the level up or go. 100%. And I think that would be my thinking on this, is that these little bits where you look professional, you look polished, and even at West Ham and Southampton, I get frustrated because we didn't have those bits sometimes. You know, like when teams want to travel in suits, this is always like a big thing with players: suits versus tracksuits. Now the old-fashioned guys, especially the managers, like suits. But you know how much of a faff it is when you've got players 2 hours before kickoff and they can't find their tie, or their shoes aren't polished, or the jacket's been sat in the back of the car crumpled, and then they're faffing about that, and you're like, we would have been so much better off going in tracksuits because everyone has a tracksuit and they can put it on, they can leave it in the car for a week and it doesn't show. And so they're not focused on the suits, they're focused on the games. And actually, you got to a point where some of the big clubs, they have like a suit van that goes up, drops all the suits, checks everything's there, dry cleans it, puts it in the hotel, puts it in there. So the player has to put it on, and then he takes it to the game, takes it off, and it's taken away and all sorted for him. And that's fine, because if you want to look that freshness, that suit sponsor wants that, you've got to go to that next level rather than just trying to half-ass it. And then you have crap suits that look shit, rather than and it looks worse than not wearing a suit at all. So it's those kind of like marginal gains that we try and talk about. And okay, I know that a lot of this isn't that relevant, isn't stuff that people can take away. But what I'm trying to say is that those marginal gains, those little bits, that vision, that how you look is so important.
Yeah, honestly, I love that. Hugo, I love you. Hugo, I love you, man. Absolutely love you. And thank you for everyone that's been commenting and liking. George, you are an active member. Thank you so much. And he has a great question. Who cares for the player care professional? Interested to know what Hugo does for self-care and self-management to maintain his professional standards during stressful or down moments.
It's a great question. I was lucky enough at West Ham that we had 3 of us doing the job. So, I was head of department, so a lot of it fell on my shoulders. But if I was having a bad day or I needed a day off, I could easily delegate to my 2 excellent guys. And so that was how I would kind of cope with it, is just try and switch off a little bit. But the way I work was I was in when the team were in, I was off when the team were off. So, my days off could switch all the time. And it's not always easy, but you kind of grow a little resilience, I guess over time. Being on call 24 hours a day, you just get used to that. I still get my phone, like I feel like a phone phantomly ringing, and I don't have a second phone anymore. But it's just like, I'm just like, oh my God. Or like I'm on a call like this, and then I see a player calling, and I'm like, oh my God, and I'm like, I don't work for him anymore. Like, somebody can call someone else, or I'll grab it in a minute. But it's that, you just get used to it. And I think, but talking to not only my peers at the club, but also peers at other clubs is really useful. But also I think to have a good social balance as well. And that's why, I found it easier living in London, because a lot of my friends live in London. So I can actually go and be social with people outside work. And at West Ham, I made a conscious decision to draw a really strong line through people at work and my colleagues, and people outside work and my friends. And I wasn't trying to go to the analyst, hey, do you want to go for a drink? Because then it gets into a point where you see these people all the time anyway. But also then if you're friends with someone from work, and then you have a disagreement at work, which often I did because I was the head of department, and my department kind of sits slightly different to the other ones in terms of it's more operational, it has to get things done. Whereas they're looking for more internally at the very small part that they look at. We were trying to look at the bigger picture a lot of times. So sometimes that's upset people. Sometimes it's like, well, you're my friend, what you doing? But you sometimes have to be direct, and you have to be strong with people. And it's much harder when you're friends with people, because you're like, you feel bad, or I don't know, you try and make a decision on a staff member or something like that, and oh well, he's got 3 kids and this and this. Yeah, I know, but if you're not performing, you're not performing, and that's it sounds very harsh, very cold-hearted, but I think to have that professional distance is important.
Oh, brilliant. And let's kind of quickly talk about communication. How important is communication to not only to the elite players, but also at grassroots level? So like what advice can you kind of give to Sunday league coaches or managers, in the changing room at halftime? And can you kind of elaborate on this, on this bullet point?
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of brushed on it earlier, but it's about the individual. And I think obviously that kind of goes against it, where you think the team is obviously the most important, and you need to have team messages, but to see that some players react better to, screaming and a bollocking. Some players react best to, an arm around the shoulder. Some players need both. Some players need neither. So I think trying to take that individual approach, where if you're a coach in the change room, have your your team talk, and then maybe pull 1 or 2 players during the game, after the game, whatever, and just try and give them the feedback that they need. I think the biggest frustration I see even with players in the Premier League level is they don't really know where they stand, and I think everyone prefers to have that direct, you're sorry, mate, you're not in my team, you're not in the team, you've not been playing well, this reason, this why, or we've got too many players and you're the one I'm picking to miss out this weekend. And I think the amount of times I've seen players not get in the squad or not get on the bench or not get into the starting 11, and then they build this like reasoning in their head, which no one has said to them, but it's like, well, he must hate me because I'm this, and I'm never going to play again. And you're like, whoa. He's left you out because we've already got 2 goalkeepers in the squad. We can't have 3. So, that's or whatever it is. And I think it's about clear communication. I think certainly maybe not so much in the grassroots in the UK, but or potentially actually, but understand where people's language skills are, and not only in terms of English, like we have that a real issue obviously with all the different languages in the squad. Some players speak fluent English, some players speak basic English, and one of the things we made sure was that they learned English straight away or started lessons. But a lot of what I would end up doing is translating English to English and simplifying people's language, because we'd be on with an estate agent, and they'd be like, well, there's this beautiful triple aspect bifold doors. And they're like, what? And you're like, big doors.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. But the estate agents use these flowery language. And I think that's the same when if you've got a squad who've got either people who don't speak English as their first language or whatever, like even using like slang can be really confusing. Especially like in East End, London, there's a lot of slang. And I think, but we had players who came in from abroad, and they struggled more with the Scouse and the like Glaswegian accents than they did with learning English. Like they could understand me, but they couldn't understand, our guys from up north. So, it's basic things like that where actually I think you've got to put yourselves in their shoes a little bit and just say like, I might speak French. Like I did GCSE French, but I couldn't say that I'd understand all the Parisian slang, that if I went there, I'd have no idea what they were saying, but if they spoke very clearly and slowly, then I'd understand. So I think be clear with people, communicate directly to them and understand where people's limitations may be and how you need to adapt your own language to help them. Because at the end of the day, if people don't understand what's going on, then you're screwed.
And were like players willing to actually learn English, and how like many lessons were like players taking a day or a week?
So we set that culture that they had to learn English. So some clubs don't have that, and I think that's wrong. But we had a very clear expectation that when you came in, you would learn English, and whether that's through formal lessons, it could be a teacher in your house, it could be a teacher online, it could be a teacher at the training ground. I mean, we always offered like a school lesson, but no one ever wanted to do that. So, or you could just, improve your English by talking to people and doing like a, Duolingo on your phone or whatever. But the expectation was within sort of 3 to 6 months, you should be doing interviews in English. You should be, even if it's very broken English, you shouldn't be able to hide behind that, because not only does it hurt the club financially, where they can't, key players can't do commercial engagements or whatever, but also like if a manager needs to speak to you in the middle of a game and you don't understand what he's saying, it's a disaster to try and get either a member of staff or another player to come translate. The moment might be gone, or you might have missed the chance or whatever. So, we try and do as much as possible. I would say at least sort of twice a week kind of thing. But, some players are more interested than others. But we didn't have any players in the end who couldn't speak English. We had a number who arrived not speaking any English. And, within 3 to 6 months, they'd all be speaking at least some level of basic English.
Amazing. So this like point, I can kind of definitely relate to this. I mean, I like on a grassroots level, especially at Sunday League level, people come together because of their mates more so than like anything else. And of course, that can create divisions and kind of cliques in a club. At elite level, I don't know. I mean, there must be, certain like people that may talk to their like friends a lot more. I mean, how like do you break that kind of clique and that kind of, in-house group and literally make everything more inclusive for of course, like the better, or, for the team and also for the club?
I think I guess the difference at the elite level is that it's not people coming together with their mates. It's a group of colleagues who've been put together, and so it's more like a work environment. I think you're naturally going to get people who gravitate towards the others, whether it's through, you normally see the two sort of cliques are age based or nationality based, or nationality/language based. And to be honest, we don't try and like actively break it up. I think everyone understands that we're all one team at the end of the day, and like if the two French guys want to have lunch together, then sure, no problem. We will do team events or team bonding things where people are, in groups of people they wouldn't normally speak with, and that's fair. But I think I don't know any team in the world that doesn't have, at least some people who kind of gravitate to each other, want to sit next to each other. But that's the same when you're grabbing a coffee. You probably have a look and see who's going to go make a coffee, and you're like, oh, I like it. I'm going to make a coffee at the same time, have a chat. Oh, she's coming up. Oh, God, if the company was like, you have to all have a coffee at the same time and you have to sit, it would be weird. Yeah. So I think making sure there's no problems within the squad is important, but to remove, at the end of the day, people drift towards cliques because that's where they feel comfortable. So why would we try and make people feel less comfortable by breaking these up? Now, it's a problem when you have this squad versus this squad and these guys don't talk to the other. But I've never seen that in a professional team. You always have, one or two guys, in the 8 years I've been doing it, that players don't gravitate towards or they don't really like so much, but they still respect him. They still need him, and I think even when you have players who are divas as such, if they're performing on the pitch, no one really cares. You just kind of crack on. And I think it's not about creating one big happy family. It's about winning games. And so you want to try and keep players comfortable, obviously get to know everyone. And we will do, as I said, activities that mix them up a little bit, but it's not in terms of just, random numbers on the bus and this is who you're going to sit next to for the next 4 hours on the way to Leicester. Like it would just be, they'd be like, well, I don't, he doesn't speak good enough English, or I don't know, the older player might not want to sit next to the 18-year-old who's looking at on Instagram for girls and cars, and he's a married guy with 3 kids. It might be different, different lifestyles, different interests, everything like that. So it's not something I worry about too much, to be honest.
Cool. How important is it to identify leaders on and off the pitch? And like again, you've like been like involved at the elite level for many years. So like you've seen kind of characters who like you've seen like straight away like like I can rely on you, and there's probably people that have literally evolved into that kind of leader status. And it's exactly same at grassroots and Sunday league level. There are certain players where they have so much of an influence on the team. Every time they speak, people listen. And again, how important is it for like you and kind of also management to literally identify those players and not going to only get them on side, but to literally be a positive influence on the team?
I think you don't get many people who are around the elite football who are kind of not leaders, because at the end of the day, you're playing at the top of your game. You are playing in front of 60 to 90,000 people. Like if you're a shrinking violet who doesn't like people, probably not the sport for you, really. There are always going to be people who stand head and shoulders above. And like, obviously at West Ham, that would be Mark Noble, who is Mr. West Ham. He is the captain. Everything runs through him. And so, for me, when I started a club, it's really important for me to just sit and watch and say, right, he's important. Let me try and speak to them and get them on the side first. And then, it spreads throughout the squad. I think, you get people who lead positively and lead negatively. But at the end of the day, like the lads tend to keep each other in check pretty much. You don't really get one who kind of runs away with everything. But, at the end of the day, like it could be a key member of staff. Like for me at West Ham, it was the head of medical who I got on very well with. And we would kind of sit and talk for hours about different things we were thinking of and different ways to approach things. And that was really, really useful for me. And again, like within the coaching staff, it's not always the manager who's your go-to person, because he's often got so much on his plate, so much pressure. It's normally like an assistant manager or a coach who like, you're like, I can really talk to you. I really get, and like, sometimes like I might, the manager might be saying something to players and I'm like, oh, he's not got that right. Or, he said that wrong. Or I think and like, I'm not going to be like, it's not like tactical stuff, but it could be something like, all right, guys, enjoy your day off tomorrow. Go away, switch off. And I'm like, oh, we got COVID testing tomorrow. But I'm not going to go step in front of him, in front of all the players. Like, you're wrong, gaffer. We've got to go there. It'll be pull the assistant manager. Listen, mate, just let you know we've got, and then he'll go, oh shit, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, but you got to come back for COVID testing. And so, but it's really important to do things in the right way. And I think, of course, you see leaders. Some are leaders on the pitch, some are leaders off the pitch, some are both. And I think, yeah, you just try and tap into them. But again, we're within a football club. We're all going for the same goal, which is winning matches. So you rarely get someone who is a leader on the pitch who is really actively working against the team, unless he's not been sold or there's some sort of off the field contractual nonsense. Then he might become a bit negative. But that's for the manager to deal with. So you really don't get players who are just obstinate or difficult for no reason in a Premier League team.
Cool. But 10% chance. So again, maybe like the kind of stats have changed, but there's a 10% chance for players at grassroots level to actually become professional, and it's even smaller to actually get into that Premier League, I'd say, cauldron. Could you kind of talk about certain other, I'd say, jobs or positions within football that that like people out there may or may not know about, and literally again, how can people kind of, apart from of course like Google, but is there kind of certain like platforms or certain footballing bodies that you should be doing your research into?
Yeah, I think there's so many different jobs. Obviously, every football club at the top level is a business anyway. So you have the standard accountancy, marketing, operations, that kind of stuff. But around the football team, you have quite a lot of quite specialized roles. There are probably two that are probably the lowest barrier to entry would be like kitman and player care, because you don't need any qualifications for that. But then obviously if you're playing non-league, you're not necessarily going to become a doctor if you haven't got the club doctor, if you haven't got medical qualifications. So it's about looking at different things. Like video analysis is really interesting, but again, you need a degree in that. Sports science, again, interesting, but you need a degree in that. A lot of these more specialized roles need degrees or coaching badges or whatever. One of the things that I'm trying to do right now is to push player care as more of a serious industry. And so one of the things I'm working on at the moment is an education course, which people will be able to sign up and do a sort of 6-week, one night every 6 weeks. Every week for 6 weeks. A little course that will be like an intro to player care. So that would be really good. But it's tough because there's so much competition for every job. We post a job and then they'll have 1,000 applicants, within a couple of days. So because everyone wants to work for their favorite club. So the only advice I could give is have a look at the club's jobs pages. Don't be a fan, and that I mean that in the nicest sense, where if your cover letter is I'm a massive West Ham fan, I'm a season ticket holder, I would love to work for the club, I guarantee you will not be working for the club. So be professional, be open, make sure your social media is good, because like the amount of times I've seen people who actually get through the interviews, get to the interview stage, and I look them up and then it's like abusive tweets towards players on their timeline, or silly comments or something. You're just like, right, well, you're not going to even get an interview now. So just be careful with what you're doing, but it's not easy. It's really not easy because everyone wants to do it and everyone wants to be at the top of, work for their favorite club or work in the Premier League. So, and I think that's fine because, it's not even a career. It's a lifestyle. It's, the amount of commitment you require, especially if you're on the team side, it really can take the love of the game away from you. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with, enjoying you playing in football, it being your passion, being your hobby, but not wanting it to be your career. Because like for me, like I coached every day when I was at uni and absolutely loved it. Well, now I barely watch games, because I've worked in it for so long. I've been to 400 and something games in 8 years, and my idea of a good day off is not watching more football. So, and I think it's a shame, but you get something where it's so full on that you're just like, I need a break from it. So my advice would be, if you want to do it, then do it and work hard and hustle. And, like I'm on LinkedIn, I'm always happy to help people, students and young people who want to get in the industry, but make sure you really want it, because are you really going to be willing to move to Swansea and halve your salary to live, in a place you've never been to, working in a lower league? And, basically it's a graft, and it's not that glamorous. And it's you've really got to really want it. And if you don't want it, that's fine. But don't give everything up to go and do it, and then you realize it's not for you after 3 weeks, because that'd be a disaster.
Yeah, a great piece of advice. And last but so yeah, I'd say like the last kind of bullet point is the message to the grassroots community. I mean, is there anything that you kind of want to say to grassroots, Sunday league, Saturday league? The floor is yours.
I think I'm actually jealous of those in the grassroots community, because football's there is done for love. It's done for passion. It's done because it's enjoyment. And football in the Premier League is done for those as well, but it's really a business, and it's really it's a lifestyle, but it's done because you're getting paid to do it. It's your job. And so one of the things I'm really looking forward to now is to really try and get involved in the grassroots community near where I live, and try and start coaching again, and really start to fall back into love with football. You can play without pressure on you. You can play without, getting criticized on social media or in the press or whatever. So take it, enjoy it, and enjoy the love of the game, rather than trying to, worry about all the stuff at the top of the game, which sometimes is far from ideal, to be honest.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you so much. Honestly, like this is like it's kind of even been an insight for like me as well. And I kind of just want to kind of thank you, because you've kind of always kind of been that one person, especially at West Ham, that I could kind of talk to and have a laugh with, and you literally kind of welcomed me, and then like the moment everyone saw me with you, then it was like, oh yeah, like Tabriz is all right. So honestly,
I didn't say that behind your back though. But, they loved it when you weren't working games.
Oh gosh, but I mean, honestly, Hugo, honestly, I just kind of wish you all of the success, and again, we will be talking again, and let me just kind of put your website up again on the screen: playercaregroup.co.uk.
Yeah.
Hugo, honestly, thank you so much. And guys out there, again, thank you for everyone's support. Thank you for the comments. I salute everyone that's in grassroots football, in non-league football, at West Ham, my new second favorite club, of course. I'm a Liverpool fan, so when Liverpool scored that goal, I was like, oh.
That's right. You can have a European team, and you can have Liverpool.
Oh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna kind of tell you a story. So, when I was in Liverpool, I was like, okay, cool, like great, So literally, I'm not gonna say who it was, but like he was like, Hugo, I need something from Liverpool City Centre. Can I get it for me? Can you remember when you actually called me? So I was like, okay, cool,
yeah,
I can do that. So I'm in Liverpool. Like, this is literally my club. So I kind of walk out, and I'm walking, and I'm like, hang on, I'm wearing a West Ham kit. Shit. The West Ham are playing Liverpool. And it was literally like, literally blew my mind. I'm like, literally, I was sweating, because I was thinking, because like I could see people looking at me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I mean, freaking Liverpool, like team that support, but I'm wearing a West Ham kit. So I literally had to run and get whatever I had to get, and actually literally run back, because anything could happen to me. Anything could have, so yeah, thanks Hugo.
Yeah. No worries. I mean, I was in Birmingham City Centre. This is when I was at Southampton, and I was wearing the kit, because obviously that's my uniform. Someone comes up to me, just walks by, and goes, "Full kit wanker." I'm like, this is what I have to wear. I'm not sat here in Birmingham on a Tuesday evening wearing head to toe kit with my initials on it, because I fancy it. I don't know how to do that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a Southampton fan or a West Ham fan, so it was like, to get beaten up or get abused for wearing either of those, I'm like, it's my job. Yeah, I definitely appreciate what you're saying.
But again, Hugo, thank you so much for like coming on. And again, I salute everyone that's in grassroots football. I salute anyone that's kind of creating content. I salute everyone that's in lockdown, that are literally waiting for football to come back. I salute the London FA, the County FA, all of the leagues that are doing so much great stuff behind the scenes. My name has been Tabrice. You've been listening to Hugo. This is the Amateur Football YouTube channel. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you guys soon.